Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I never saw it coming. Kimberly and I had been together for nearly 10 years. We had built a life together. Our home, our routines, the quiet, unspoken comfort of knowing each other inside and out. Or at least I thought we did. Then one night as we sat on the couch after dinner, she turned to me with an unreadable expression and said, "I don't feel happy anymore." I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. I let out a small, confused laugh. "What do you mean?" I asked, setting my plate aside. She sighed, looking down at her hands. "I don't know. I just feel different." Different. That wasn't an answer. That was a riddle. I leaned forward, trying to make sense of what she was saying. Is it me? Did I do something? Are you stressed? What changed? She shrugged, her gaze distant. "I don't know. I just need space." I felt something heavy settle in my chest. Space? I had heard those words before from friends who had lost their relationships. It was never just space. It was the beginning of the end. But I didn't want to believe that. I told myself this was just a phase, that maybe she was feeling off and it would pass. So, instead of arguing, I said, "Okay, what do you need from me?" "I just need time," she murmured. And just like that, everything shifted. I tried everything. I refused to accept that this was the end. I convinced myself there had to be a reason, something I was missing, so I fought for her. I planned date nights, bought her flowers, left notes in her purse, and made her favorite meals. I asked about her day with enthusiasm and truly listened when she talked. I even took a few days off work to spend more time with her, thinking maybe I had been too distracted with life. Maybe I had taken her for granted. None of it worked. No matter what I did, she remained distant. She smiled, but it was polite, not genuine. She let me hold her hand, but her fingers never curled around mine like they used to. When I kissed her, she kissed me back, but it was like she wasn't there. I started noticing the little things. The way she checked her phone more often, turning the screen away from me. The way she sighed when I asked if she was okay, like she was tired of answering. The way she hesitated before saying, "I love you," as if the words didn't fit right in her mouth anymore. One night, I had everything planned. Candles, dinner, soft music in the background. I pulled out all the stops. She sat across from me at the table, stirring her food absent-mindedly, barely eating. "You don't have to do all this," she said suddenly, not even looking up. I set my fork down. "I want to." She exhaled slowly, like she was carrying a weight I couldn't see. "Greg, I told you. I just need space." I stared at her, something inside me cracking. Space from what? From me? She didn't answer. That was my answer. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me, her back turned, like I was just some stranger in the same bed. I had done everything I could, given everything I had. But if she didn't know whether she wanted me, then why was I the one fighting so hard? So I stopped. I stopped texting her throughout the day. I stopped checking in. I stopped asking if she was okay. Stopped planning things, stopped trying to make her feel special. I still loved her, but I wasn't going to beg for her attention anymore. And that's when something strange happened. She noticed. At first it was small things. She started texting me in the middle of the day. "Where are you?" When before she barely acknowledged my absence. She called me at work just to check in. Then, she started asking about my day, when just days ago she barely responded when I asked about hers. She'd wait up for me when I came home late, looking up from the couch like she had been expecting me to walk through the door hours earlier. One evening I walked into the kitchen to grab a drink and she was standing by the counter, watching me. "You've been really distant lately," she said, her voice softer than usual. I took a sip of my water and shrugged. "I'm just giving you the space you asked for." She blinked, and for the first time in weeks I saw something flicker in her eyes. Uncertainty. Maybe even fear. She wasn't expecting this. At first, she pretended it didn't bother her. She convinced herself that I was just upset, that I was trying to get back at her. But the longer it went on, the more restless she became. She started trying. She'd suggest watching our favorite shows together. She'd linger by my side when I was doing things around the house. She even brought home my favorite takeout one night, something she hadn't done in months. And then, one evening, as I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone, she hesitated before sitting next to me. "Do you still love me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I turned to her, keeping my expression unreadable. Why are you asking me that now? She blinked, caught off guard. I just feel like we're growing apart, she admitted. I let out a small laugh. You're the one who wanted space. I'm just respecting that. And that's when I saw it. The regret. She had expected me to wait, to fight for her, to hold on no matter what. She never thought I would stop chasing her. But something still felt off. Yes, she regretted something, but it wasn't just about me. It was something deeper, something she was hiding. Then, one night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. It buzzed. Once. Twice. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't that kind of guy. But then, I saw the message. I miss you. When can I see you again? I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't even breathe for a second. It all made sense now. She didn't need space. She wanted options. She wanted to test the waters with someone else while keeping me as a safety net. And now that she saw me slipping away, she was scrambling to pull me back. But it was too late. The moment I saw that message on her phone, something in me shifted. I miss you. When can I see you again? Those words were all it took to destroy every illusion I had left. I wasn't even looking for anything. I hadn't gone through her phone, hadn't been snooping. But there it was. Evidence of the truth I had been too blind to see. I stood there for a long time, staring at the screen, my heartbeat strangely steady. There was no explosion of anger, no immediate confrontation. Instead, I felt an eerie calm settle over me, like I had just been handed the final piece of a puzzle I didn't even realize I had been solving. I put her phone down and walked away. She came out of the bathroom minutes later, towel drying her hair, oblivious to the fact that I now knew everything. She smiled slightly as she passed by me, like we were just two normal people in a normal marriage. It almost made me laugh. The next few days I stayed in the house, not because I was hesitating, not because I had doubts, but because I was meeting with a lawyer, preparing for the divorce. I got everything in motion and made sure I had everything I needed. But during those days, something changed. I completely stopped caring. I didn't ask her how she was feeling. I didn't check in on her. I didn't watch her anymore, didn't wait for her to notice me. The weight that had been crushing me for weeks was suddenly gone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't care. She had made her choice, and now I was making mine. If she spoke to me, I barely responded. If she was in the room, I didn't look at her. If she sat next to me, I didn't move, but I didn't acknowledge her either. I wasn't ignoring her to punish her. She simply didn't matter anymore. And she felt it, the shift in the air, the way I moved through the house like she wasn't even there, the way I barely acknowledged her presence. She started watching me more, paying attention in a way she hadn't in months. But it was too late. I saw it in her eyes, the slow realization that she had gone too far, that she had miscalculated, that she had underestimated me. And then came the moment. One evening I stood in the bedroom packing a suitcase. I moved methodically, folding my clothes, collecting my essentials. I didn't rush. I wasn't angry. I was just done. Kimberly walked in, her steps hesitant. She leaned against the doorframe, arms wrapped around herself. "What are you doing?" Her voice was quiet, uncertain. I didn't stop packing. "Leaving." Her breath hitched. For how long? I zipped up the suitcase and turned to face her. For good. She blinked rapidly like she was trying to process what I had just said. "Greg, come on, don't do this." I let out a small humorless laugh. "I'm not the one who did this, Kimberly. You are." A flicker of panic crossed her face. "I don't understand." I tilted my head slightly. I saw the message. Her whole body stiffened. "What?" I stared at her, unimpressed. "On your phone, the one you were careless enough to leave unlocked. I miss you. When can I see you again?" I repeated the words back to her, my voice eerily calm. She paled, her mouth opening, then closing as if scrambling for a lie that wouldn't come. "Greg, I held up a hand. "Don't. It doesn't matter anymore." I grabbed my suitcase and walked past her. She followed me down the hallway, her footsteps quick, her panic growing. "Wait, where are you going?" "I told you, I'm leaving." She looked stricken, like the air had been knocked out of her. I don't want us to fall apart," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I stopped at the front door, my hand on the handle. Then, I turned to face her one last time. We didn't fall apart, Kimberly. You walked away, and now I'm doing the same. Her eyes filled with tears. She reached out, her fingers trembling as she grabbed my arm. Please, I don't want to lose you. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had once been my world, who had made me believe we were unbreakable, only to shatter everything when she thought she had the luxury of my unconditional loyalty. You already did. And then, I walked out the door. I didn't look back. I didn't wait for her to chase after me. I heard her sob as the door shut behind me, but for the first time in a long time it didn't matter. Because I was free. The next morning I officially filed for divorce. I found an apartment across town, not too fancy but quiet. A fresh start. Over the next few days I packed the rest of my things, signed the paperwork, and left the house behind. Kimberly didn't fight me on it. Maybe she thought I was bluffing. Maybe she thought I'd come back eventually. But I didn't. For months I focused on rebuilding my life. I poured myself into work, hit the gym more often, picked up old hobbies I had neglected during our marriage. And eventually, I started dating. At first it felt strange, sitting across from a woman who wasn't Kimberly, learning someone new. But it also felt good, refreshing even. I was finally living for myself. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. She got the house, but I didn't care. It was just a building, and I was already gone. 6 months after the divorce, there was a knock at my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I had been getting ready for the gym, pulling on my sneakers when the sound echoed through my place. When I opened the door, I froze. Kimberly stood there looking nothing like the woman I had left behind. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, her eyes were tired, her hands clasped in front of her like she was holding herself together. "Hey," she said softly. I exhaled, already knowing where this was going. "Hey." She shifted on her feet, looking around as if taking in my new life. "Can I come in?" I thought about it for a second. Then I stepped aside. She walked in, her eyes scanning the space, her movements uncertain. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "What are you doing here, Kimberly?" She swallowed hard, her eyes scanning the floor before finally meeting mine. I needed to see you. To talk." I didn't say anything. She took a shaky breath. "I made a mistake, Greg." I tilted my head slightly, waiting. I thought I needed something else, something different. But nothing worked. The guy I was seeing, I ended it. Tried dating again, but nothing lasted. She took a step closer, her eyes pleading. And then I realized, it was you. It was always you. I let out a slow breath, rubbing a hand over my jaw. "Kimberly, please just hear me out," she interrupted, voice desperate. "I was stupid. I ruined everything. But I swear, I see it now. I see what I lost." I stared at her for a long time, letting her words settle. Then I shook my head. "I moved on, Kimberly." She flinched, like the words had physically hurt her. "Greg, please," she whispered. "No," I said, firm but calm. "You walked away, and I spent months trying to figure out what I did wrong. But now I know. I wasn't the problem. You were." Tears welled in her eyes. "I miss you," she choked out. I sighed, stepping toward the door. "You should go." She didn't move at first. She just stood there, her lips parted, as if she wanted to argue, to beg, but I had nothing left to give her. Finally, she nodded, wiping at her eyes. She walked past me, stopping at the doorway for just a second. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't respond. And then, she walked out of my life. For good. I shut the door behind her, locked it, and took a deep breath. And for the first time since it all began, I felt at peace. Because I had won. Thank you for watching.